Alright, hello everyone, this is Kenya from Crafted Creations, and I wanted to come back on about the PE525 by Brother, which is a personal embroidery machine. And so in the previous videos we talked about what these buttons and the icons meant. We kind of scratched the surface and it was a very quick and brief description of what each button or icon function is. Then we also talked about how to transfer purchased or digitized images or fonts, how to transfer those from your PC to your machine. So today I wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth the actual images and how to move through a design, how to move a design, what if you messed up, etc. So I want to just use one that's inside of the machine, and as we remember here, that will be this little icon here. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just choose the first one. Now, if you remember, we kind of talked about this screen very briefly. So up here are your hoops. Okay, so we're using a 4x4 hoop, which is the largest size that comes with the machine. Now with the PE525, the SC400, there are adjustable hoops which will allow you to stitch out images 4x6 approximate. Okay, so you can go a little bit bigger with the adjustable hoop, but with your machine, the largest hoop size is a 4x4. And I am going to give a disclosure right now. I am really close to my camera, so you may hear me swallow, sniffle, because I am fighting a cold. So I do apologize if that bothers you. I know that it kind of irks me from time to time, so forgive me. All right, so these two numbers here in this particular design is going to show that this is the first part of this image that will stitch out, okay, and that is 1 of 8. So we would have to do 8 different color changes in order to get the design that we want, which is it looked like a flower pot and some flowers and leaves. All right, now let's say we don't want the basket part to be light brown, where you can come to the color check and it will tell you all of the different colors that the design has. So right now we see that color stop 4 out of 8 would be pink. So we can actually lay out all of the colors or have all of the threads ready so that it makes the process bigger. So we can check the colors. Now mind you, you do not have to use the colors that they suggested. The digitizer had their own color palette that they used. You don't have to use Harvest Gold. You can use orange, you can use pink, you can use purple. It's your design. It's just the reference point, okay? And so it's great to have that because again, you can have all of your embroidery threads out, and then as you need to switch out your colors, you can. Okay, so that's what the color check button does. Now, I don't really mess with this one here, but I do believe that you can adjust, I think it's the stitches or the density or something like that. Again, I don't mess with that one, so I'm not really sure what that one does. Okay, so just being honest, I don't mess with that one at all. All right, so let's go back and we learn that that is this button here. Now adjust, I do a lot of adjusting here. So let's go ahead and click there. So again, you still have your color check button up there. Now what's interesting is the second button here. So the first two are spools of thread. You can actually move through the design by colors. So let's say I don't want to start the design out by stitching the light brown. I want to do the pink. So you can go to this plus sign, okay, and I can go to color stop 4, and I can start with the pink flowers first, Or I can go back and say, no, I think I do want to go with the leaves first instead of the flowers. So you don't have to necessarily go in sequential order. Now, a good thing about this is if you don't want to stitch out a complete design, you just want bits and pieces of a design, that would work there very well by going through the colors. Okay, so let's say I don't want any leaves, I just want the flowers in the flower pot. I can go ahead and stitch out the deep rose. I can stitch out the pink without having to do you know, these little leaves. I don't have to do any of the green colors. So that's what those two buttons do, so you can move through your colors. Alright, now where the needle with the plus and minus sign, excuse me, what I like about this is, let's say we are doing the flower. So let me go back to the pink. Alright, and I'm going to actually stitch out a little bit so I can show you. So when you see this red button here, you just want to put the presser foot down, okay? And you want to make sure that you have enough thread behind there, okay? With the presser foot down, that thread is not going to move. But if I put the presser foot up, the thread goes longer. So you want to make sure that that presser foot is down and that this light is green. And this is just a scrap piece of paper or fabric. Alright, so it's going to start stitching. Alright, and we're just going to let it do its thing. Alright, so I'm going to stop it. Oh no, I don't like the way this looks. Okay, so what you would do, I want to go back. You can actually use the plus or minus. And it's going, if you can hear that, I'm pushing the plus and minus. I'm going to kind of scroll back down here. And you will see the needle move. You can go through, you can do it in large or stitch by stitch. Okay, ooh, I went back too far. So then I can hit the plus sign with the needle icon next to it, and I can advance forward. So if you ever have a situation where the bobbin thread, or you have a thread break, or you know, unfortunately a needle was broken, or you had a file that didn't look as full as you wanted and you wanted to restitch it, as long as you do not unhoop the fabric from the hoop, you can pretty much start off wherever you leave off. You can go back, you can go forward, you can actually take, I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread. Okay, I'm going to lift up my presser foot, I'm going to take the hoop off the machine. Okay, here's my hoop. Okay, it's off the machine, right? But then I didn't unhoop it, so I can put my hoop back on, because you know, sometimes you do run out of bobbin thread in the middle of a project. Okay, so I'm going to snap this back on, and I'm working from behind the camera, so forgive me. There we go. So I'm going to put my presser foot down. If you notice, my needle is directly underneath or over my stitches, so I can go ahead and hit this green button and it's going to go right back where I was. Okay, so it's stitching, it's doing this thing. And typically I would stop the machine and cut off these extra threads, because sometimes it'll get underneath your stitches and that's not what you want. Okay, so here's a good example. Okay, so you see that it moved on to the second flower. Oh no, this flower, I don't like this. So I can come back over here, and I'm sorry to sound so dramatic, but I can go back and it's going to take me back to the other flower. You hear that? You see that? Now it's back over there, and I can go back just like that. So that's what that button is. So you never have to feel like you're stuck, okay? And so that's what's cool about those 4 buttons. You can advance through colors and advance through stitches, stitch by stitch, or a little bit faster. All right, now let's go back. Now the layout button here, which is the last button, you can see your virtual hoop right here in the middle. And I know it may be a little difficult to see, so I'm going to try to move it a little bit and hopefully it'll come in focus for you. Alright, so over here is your virtual hoop. This is your design and it's going to completely fill your entire hoop. Okay, and then under here you will see numbers. So your design is going to show you how big your design is. So this design is 3.93 by 3.94. That is the maximum size hoop you had. Now, if we had a smaller design, which I'm going to go ahead and find for you. Okay, let's find a smaller design. All right. Now, this design is 1.9 by 1.89 by 3.7. So it's 1 inch. So let's say I don't want to start my design directly in the middle. You can use these up and down buttons to move your design. Okay? Now, as you can see, it's going to stop at, or it's going to start exactly where I put it at the top of the hoop. Why do you want this feature? Well, let's say you want to conserve on stabilizer, or you want to, you don't have any software, but you want to add a name to this design, right? So the beauty of it is you can start your image up or down. You can have the same specs left or right. You can take note of the numbers here as well. So let's say you wanted, again, to add a name. You can make a mental reference of the north and south or the XY axis. Okay? So then the next thing that you can do, and I'm going to kind of bag up so you can see, is this button here, and it's a square with an arrow facing down. And what that does is it traces out where your design is going to stitch. So I just pushed it. Now let's say I have fabric all the way through and through. It's showing me the parameter of where that design is going to stitch out on my fabric. So what I like about the trace is tracing the image is if you have a smaller piece of fabric or a smaller you know, project, and you only have, you know, a 2 inch by 2 inch square to stitch in. Let's say you're doing a monogram on I've done house shoes. Well, we know that the front of the house shoes aren't that big, so you can trace it to make sure that number one is going to stitch exactly where you want it to stitch, and then also you know, that is going to fit your project. Okay, and I apologize for kind of stammering here. All right, this button here is your mirror, so you can actually flip the design as a mirror image. And then you can also rotate by using that button there. You can go in 90-degree increments, left or right, 10-degree increments, or 1-degree increments. So let's say again you hooped it, you fought with the material, and it's not completely straight. You can move your design so that it will stitch exactly where you want in 1-degree increments. Let's say you're off by maybe, you know, 2 degrees. You can hit either one of these buttons here, and again I hope you can see it, by 1 degree, and it's going to tilt slightly. Okay, so we're going to reset it, and then we're going to go back. So that's what that button is for. Okay, we're going to flip that back, and then whenever you make an adjustment, okay, you want to hit your trace, because is going to go back to the middle because that's how it was programmed to do. So you always want to hit your trace button to make sure that it's exactly where you want. And then lastly, there's the size. Now you can make your projects if they're already if they're within 3.9 by 3.9, you can't make it any bigger, but you can shrink it down. Now, one thing to keep in mind though is when you adjust it, you adjust your stitches. So your design may be denser or less dense depending on how big or how small you make the design. Okay, so as you can see, it's adjusting, it's recalculating. So now it's not too much. You can look here and see how much bigger or smaller your design is. Okay. Now you see before it was 3.79. Now it's 3.70. We can go down again. It's 3.63. Okay. So you can shrink it down, but just keep in mind that when you do that, you are messing with the overall stitches of that design. All right, so let's say we are happy with everything. So that's I'm sorry, before I say that, those are those buttons here, and then this is going to put it in the middle. All right, or bring it back to the original size. I'm sorry, in the middle. Okay, so again, you know, you resized it, everything looks good. Let's say that you use the fonts inside of the machine and it was just a tad bit larger or smaller than you had envisioned. You can do that under the size. All right, again, you still want to use your trace. Okay, you want to make sure you use that trace. All right, so everything looks good. Use your back button and then you can proceed to stitch out the color. So you would put your presser foot down, make sure that this button is green, you have the right color that you want, and then you will stitch as normal. Alright, so I know that this was a lengthy video. Hopefully I explained everything to your liking. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave one below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye now.